Hi, I'm Indy. I'm a graduate student from California College of the Arts, and I'm here to share with you a little bit of my thesis project. It's called Indexer, and it's an idea for a database for tracking our consumption. So my thesis project was all about waste management and recycling, and I did a research talking to experts and going to recycling facilities, and also talking to people from waste management and ecology, and it focused in San Francisco, so it had a macro view, but it also had a micro view. I talked to individuals about their recycling experiences, and I'm here to talk about that phase. So when an individual wants to engage in recycling and be more environmentally aware, he usually asks those questions, two questions. How much do I throw away? And how do I know how to recycle properly? So usually those questions are answered by giving us a measurement, which is a weight value. And EPA has estimated that the average person throws away 6.62 pounds per day, and it recycles 1.52 between just recycling and composting. Also, when we're being taught, what are the best recycling practice, the city of San Francisco gives us guidelines through information in flyers and in their website. But this got me thinking: is this enough? Is this measurement of how much our trash weighs and the information that the city gives you through the brochure enough information for us to sort of understand how much we throw away and what's our carbon footprint? So I started thinking about these questions, and I started to track my waste. And through that experience, a couple of patterns came through. Even though I did find out that I lie within the average, what more curious to me is what I saw that I consume and what patterns arose, and the fact that I drink, up to almost 15 apple juice a month. And these were the questions that for me were interesting. I found out that knowing how much your garbage weighs sometimes can be misleading. And I heard this story about how this college campus saved so much money just because they emptied their bottles. So basically they had the same amount of materials, but because of the liquid, it was sort of distorting what they understood their environmental input to be. So then I wanted to reach out. I wanted to see what other people's experiences were, and I started talking to people in my immediate community. So this is an intervention I did at California College of the Arts, showcasing the waste of only one weekend. And through that process, I started asking people questions. How do they feel when they recycle? How much do they consume? I also did an intervention, which was an installation that allowed people to sort of see our thinking process when we have to decide where to put what. It was a way of allowing people to experiment that thinking process in a spatial way instead of just looking at a regular list, which is our most common experience. I also did a studio prototype with around 60 students, having them sort differently and seeing if they were able to identify materials. And I also did this prototype with people in the home, with 7 households, 2 couples, and 2 households with roommates. And I asked them questions about what was their experience like. They had to journal. And every week I will go to their house and take pictures of everything that they consumed. And I will track, what were their errors when they were trying to sort. I also followed them in the supermarket. I was curious whether their environmental concerns were reflective of the things that they purchased. And what arose is this extreme sense of confusion. We have guidelines, but people really don't know, what to do with a lot of items. And this is another example of things does this even go in a bin? And if it doesn't, where do I take it? And the greatest insights is that our discards tell stories about ourselves. When you look at this picture, you can tell that this person consumes a lot of Coke and a lot of water, and and possibly drinks soda more in cans than in a double liter. And it also talks about our environmental concern being reflected in what we buy, and what does that mean? So the idea of the indexer was to use a very low-tech technology, which is our barcode, which is now being leveraged as containing all this information. You can connect it to a link, you can connect it to any other type of data, and how can we do that to leverage what we buy? So imagine if you, when you went to the supermarket, instead of getting an analog printed out receipt, you will get a receipt to your computer with everything that you bought. So for example, the guy that was standing here before, he doesn't have to manually insert every single item. And he will tell you what are those materials that you're buying, so you can learn to identify them. And he will show you, what are the frequency of the stuff that you buy, and how does that reflect, how much glass you use, how much plastic you use, how does that influence the recycling markets? Are you contributing more to glass recycling or more to plastic recycling? And it will show you what to do when you actually need to dispose of that item. How do I break it apart to make sure that I'm sorting properly so it can be used by recyclers? And it doesn't matter if you are at home or on the go, you can always have access to this information. I think the overall message is that if we want to leverage large-scale behavioral change, and it is thought that we should have norms, we should have tools, and we should have policy. And I think using the tools that we have, and the data that exists, supermarkets have all this information, and they use it for marketing purposes. And today there are many teams working with life cycle analysis and sort of giving us indexes for products like the Good Guide. How can we combine this and motivate in a spirit of open source so we can understand better about ourselves through what we buy, and use that as information that makes it actionable. If I actually want to switch a product because I don't want to consume more plastic, what are those products? For what other products can I replace that? And I think those are the type of tools that would enable people to change their behavior. We are expecting them to remember in their heads, 50,000, 30,000 products, and at the moment of throwing it away, knowing where to put it, it's a lot of information that we are sort of giving the individual a burden with. So I think we have the technology to improve that. Thank you.